Got it. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight in our Thrive discussion. I really appreciated Reverend Sue Ellen's approach a couple weeks ago to engage more and have more conversation across everybody who's a participant for a variety of reasons. And then, like over a week ago, I was just thinking, wow, what am I going to talk about? And the word demonstration, it continued to come to me. And so that's the focus of the conversation this evening, demonstration. So with that, I'd like to first start with a prayer. And I invite each of you to close your eyes and pause for just a moment and be in this moment. And as we each take a breath, multiple breaths in this moment here together now, we know that it is all about God. That as we individually breathe, the wholeness, the loving air, the atmosphere, the world around us, as we breathe in and breathe out, we know that it's God. And I know that this evening, God is expressing, God, Spirit, the loveliness of oneness expresses through each of us as we share in this evening's discussion, this evening's Thrive session on demonstration. God expresses and beautiful things unfold because it's all God. And I am so grateful for this knowing of Spirit, so grateful for this opportunity to share this evening together in this oneness of love and this oneness of God. And together we say, and so it is. Cool. So as I was saying before everybody joined, talking with Reverend Sue Ellen, another really good, cool thing about these little sessions that we have during the month is that it affords you an opportunity when you participate to learn, of course, but also when you're leading a session to do a little bit of research and you pull out, books maybe that you haven't looked at in a while. And sometimes when I'm doing research on a topic, I even just like to start with, well, what's the raw general definition of a given word? So naturally, that's one of the first things I did with this word demonstration. I just did a Google search. I said, well, I'm curious. Let's just see what Google says. Well, actually, technically speaking, it was a DuckDuckGo search. I don't really care for Google anymore. So I did my search to see what came up as the word demonstration. And so in my talk this evening, I want to talk a little bit about, again, the word demonstration and from this generic sense, and then a metaphysical sense, and then, of course, science of mind, and then summarize a bit about what Ernest Holmes, articulates about demonstrations. And then I have a beautiful little meditation from Ernest Holmes regarding demonstrations. And then following all of that, would like to, if you all are open to it, just to share some of the more striking experiences you've had in life, either recent experiences or ones from the past, if you want. And so that's the essence of the discussion tonight. So anyway, so the definition that I found from my DuckDuckGo search is that the demonstration obviously is a noun in that context, that it is an act or process of providing evidence for showing the truth of something. Okay, a piece of evidence. Okay, I can see that. I can see that. Something that's evident. And so then the next thing that came up, I did a search on, well, what's the metaphysical definition of the word demonstration? And what was pretty much at the top end of the search results is, in this particular instance, was from truthunity.net, you know, that website for unity, where they provide a host of just an array of different information. And so the metaphysical meaning of demonstration is pretty close to really, in essence, what Ernest Holmes says. It's the proving of a truth principle in one's affairs. You know, and it's the manifestation, there's the word manifestation, of an ideal when its accomplishment is brought about by, you know, one's thought, one's word, and the act to the creative principle of God. And so then many times when you go to Truth Unity, you know, when you're researching something, they'll actually even make reference to a biblical phrase, which I kind of like that. And they include that in their discussions. So Truth Unity talked about how there's 3 steps in every demonstration. You know, you first recognize the truth as it is in principle of law. You, number 1. Number 2, you hold an idea. And then number 3, acknowledge the fulfillment. And so then the biblical reference is Matthew 21:22. Whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. So even back from biblical times. I know that what I'm talking about here is not new to any of you. I just thought, you know, it's again refreshing to go back to basics, and also refreshing to share our experiences for, like what Reverend Sue Ellen, what you've advocated and encouraged throughout training, is that as we go through daily our lives and we achieve demonstrations and manifestations of things, to write them down. The more we write about it, the more we talk about it, the deepening of the belief, in my opinion.
Mine too.
Yeah, it's good. Well, so then the third definition that I was looking for, of course, was Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind. You know, I could have kept going on, but I chose to stop there. And so in Science of Mind 3:14.3, what he says, to demonstrate means to prove. I can hear him saying this. To prove, to exemplify, to manifest, to bring forth, and to project into our experience something that is better than we had yesterday. I thought that was interesting. How in this particular part of the entire textbook and in this manner, he defines it. Something that is better than we had yesterday. And then he goes on to say less pain, for example, less happiness, less poverty, less misery, more good. And that is what is meant by a demonstration. That's quote what he says. You know, he has the belief of spiritual essence onward and upward. And I can see that woven through this definition here. Something that's brought forth that is more good. That's a nice thought. So I want to say a little bit more about demonstrations here. I thought, okay, Diane, those are the definitions. That's what it is. You know, I actually, when I was doing this, I also said, well, what about synchronicity? Because I have a lot of, I don't know if I can say the word, synchronatic. Is that a word? Anyway, I have a lot of synchronatic experiences too. And so I was kind of curious as to the difference between the two. But I don't know why I chose to bring that up, because I don't, unless we want to, we don't need to talk about synchronistic things. But I do have a mixture of, you know, actual manifestation of something that I brought forth, along with just throughout the day, things that are just coincidental, that, wow, you know, seemed on the surface to be more than just, in other words, it seemed like maybe something like spirit was really driving it. Okay, so I took a little deviation here. Anyway, so Ernest Holmes, I went throughout, I used my concordance, went to the Science of Mind text, just to get more from Ernest Holmes on, okay, well then how do we practice demonstrations? You know, what is the reminder from Ernest on how to do it? And then some reminders around that. So I have a few little snippets here that I'd like to, that I picked out. If we want the Science of Mind reference, I can give them to you. So, you know, obviously anyone can demonstrate. We are only limited by our use. And you know, by our belief and by our use. Period. You know, and we cannot demonstrate beyond our ability to provide a mental equivalent of our desire. So there's the thought and the belief. The limitation is not in the principle. We all know that. Yeah, it's in our belief and our knowing. So that was one key point, a nice reminder. And if it doesn't come to fruition, if it doesn't happen, Ernest Holmes says, you know, we're not demonstrating when our, you know, our subjective state of thought is different by our objective state. In other words, you know, maybe there's some unconscious thinking inside of us that is prohibiting it, because one can neutralize the other. And I agree with that. And you may not even be aware of that. It's kind of happened to me. So that was a good reminder. That if we are seeking to demonstrate, obviously believe in divine guidance, and knowing that there is divinity and you are divinely guided. I have a bunch of words here. I'm not so sure I want to go through all of them, but that not only do you believe in divine guidance, but you feel this unity of spirit, you know, in all people and in all things in life. Yeah. And then another reminder that he has here is to have an expectation. That's a good one. I thought that was a good one. And, you know, and of course I was picking things out of the book that resonated with me, right? To maybe even just remind myself about this. Because when you look at the concordance, there probably was about a page and a half, if not 2 pages of references throughout the entire text. But anyway, have an expectation, you know, to just simply know that that what you're imagining, what your thought is, that it will not only tend to take and become, but it will take form and it will manifest. So to have that expectation and that knowing is a key point that Ernest Holmes makes as well. So I thought those were good reminders. I have a bunch more here, but I think I'll stop with that. I want to pause there and just see if anybody has anything you want to add before I take us into a little meditation.
I do. I remember going through practitioner training, and I don't know if they still teach this phrase anymore when we talk about what science of mind is, or what spiritual mind treatment is that it was a philosophy, a science, and a philosophy because it taught you something, a science because it was provable through demonstration, and a religion or a faith because it gave you something to believe in and live with. And so in your discussion tonight, I think that's kind of interesting to bring up the whole idea about provable, because I think that's everybody's kind of quest. You know, if I'm going to learn this prayer treatment and speak it, can I prove it? Or how do I prove this? And I found it fascinating that you start with those little items that begin to show up when you learn treatment, and they work. And it's like in that, is it stage 1 or stage 2 in the 4 stages of the life that Michael Beckwith talks about, where you all of a sudden learn how to start manifesting princes, parking spaces. There's the 3 Ps: parking space, prince, and something else. I forget what the third one is, but it's those little things, you know, that all of a sudden start showing up and just start teasing you that this thing really works and it's really provable. And your demonstration really comes to life. And I always thought that was it was fun to do that. But then you kind of move that into, you can't really demonstrate something that you cannot have a true mental equivalent. And so I used to be in this club of people that would, or, you know, other practitioners that, you know, we would treat to win the lottery. But, you know, can you really develop that mental equivalent of all, you know, of making 20,000 a year and all of a sudden being a multimillionaire? Or
Oh, you froze.
having 100,000, you know, all whatever that. Yeah, I can't tell if it's me or it's freezing a lot. I think I have a bad internet. I'm sorry, but so yeah, I think that's such an important point, you know. But when I was just starting out, the teacher would say, if you don't believe you can do that, fake it. Fake it till you make it. And well, and so you know, a lot of us would say, well, I don't know what that feels like. How would I even know what it feels like to have this thing that I'm trying to treat for, to develop a mental equivalent? Well, just pretend. Like, okay, well, I don't know what it would be like to be rich, or I don't know what it would be like to, you know, have you know, some of these things that I don't remember at that point in my life what I was trying to treat for. Or could I even get used to that feeling or that sensation of having something? So there's interesting points, all that stuff to work through.
I used to tell people that if they had a $10 an hour job then it would be difficult for them to manifest, just as you said, to manifest a job that was $250 an hour. And some people make $250 an hour.
Yeah.
But if you had a $10 an hour job, you could probably imagine yourself in a $15 an hour job.
Yeah.
So imagine that and make that come true. And now that you're at 15, you might be able to imagine yourself logically in a $20 an hour job. You don't have to jump clear to 250. You can just go from where you are. Just keep going.
Yeah.
No limits on what you're doing except what you are. Except what we put there. Oh my gosh, do we put there? We do tend to put stuff in limits in what's going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. One thing with me, I've been very blessed to be able to bring into my life particular properties and environments that I've always wanted. And to be able to do that on my own. One of my, initially, I always wanted a place on the water, but initially what my thought was on the beach. Oh, and I laugh actually, because I would, to your point, I mean, I really couldn't imagine it. And I guess I really didn't believe in that it was I've got to be careful with my words here. I couldn't see a mental equivalent because I just, it was just something I could not afford, to be honest with you, by myself. And maybe that was what was blocking me. So what I did is instead of constraining it to the type of water, I then changed my intention to just on water, which opened up to, lakes or rivers and not just the beach, right? Much more options. And as soon as I did that, I'm getting goosebumps. I found this little itty bitty 500 square foot vintage cabin on a nature preserve. The water itself was about 2 football fields, that's about how big it was. It was on the water though.
Wow.
And I was able to buy that little place. And then to your point, Reverend Sue Ellen, as well as what you're saying, Reverend Lynn, then that was my first little stepping stone. And then I was able to get this townhome that I'm in right now. It was 1,200 square feet on a big lake. And it was even cheaper.
Wow. Wow.
I know. So anyway, that was unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. But yeah. So I was defining it too narrowly, and it was not achievable realistically.
Well, that's not the truth.
Well,
You might have it, you might still run across your space on a beach. It just wasn't your mental equivalent at that point, wasn't able to do it.
so that's fair.
When you changed what you were looking for, all of a sudden miracles show up. But that doesn't say that you can't have that place on the beach if you still want it.
That is fair. That's totally fair.
But now that you've got 2 houses on the water, I'm not sure you need a third one.
Oh, no, I sold the other one. I don't.
Okay.
That one, I don't have it. Yeah, that's another whole story. That's another whole story. So let me just go ahead and, if I may, just share just this very short meditation from Ernest Holmes. And it's always interesting when I read these, they're written in a different way than how we speak today. But I would just like to pause and I'll invite you all, if you so choose, to just kind of close your eyes and just listen to the words. The meditation is titled, "My Word Shall Bear Fruit." The word of my mouth shall bear fruit. It shall accomplish and prosper, and shall not return unto me void. My word is the law unto the thing whereunto it is sent, and it cannot come back empty-handed. Cannot come back empty-handed. I send out my word, and it is the law unto my life. My word is the law unto the thing whereunto it is spoken, and will become fulfilled in the right way and at the right time. My word is complete and perfect, and is the presence and the power of the one mind that is in and through all. I speak the word and know that it will accomplish. That it will accomplish. I wait in perfect confidence for the word to fulfill itself in my life. My word is law. That's beautiful. My word is law. Our word is law. Anyway, I thought that was beautiful. So, I shared one little demonstration. Actually, it's a big one. That was one that I'd had for a while. Does anybody have any demonstrations that you would like to share that, you know, you're just in awe of?
I had someone once ask me to pray for a red couch. And I thought that was just kind of odd. But she was adamant that's what she wanted, was pay, would you pray for a red couch? So I did. I could see her sitting on her red couch. I could see her enjoying her red couch. I could see her moving the red couch into the house. And she called me 3 days later saying, I got my red couch. Somebody had it sitting by the dumpster on the side of the road.
Oh my goodness.
That's just weird. You know, I mean, it's like the red couch was an odd enough thing in the first place. And there we go.
That's beautiful. See, that makes you believe even more, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I've done weather manifestations as well.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Driving and it's pouring down rain and doing a treatment for the rain to stop. Just long enough. If it needs to continue to rain, please just stop long enough for me to pass through the territory. And then they can rain all at once after I go through. I'm just putting it out there. And having the rain disappear. Or pause, or shift to sprinkles, but not that driving rain that I was driving through. It's like, okay.
Nice.
And I've had that happen enough times that I can, I feel fairly certain most of the time when I do that, I get exactly what I want. Rain to dissipate enough for me to move through it safely.
Nice.
I don't know whether that's gonna be an interesting thing to have out on the internet. Somebody who prays away the rain.
Oh.
But I've
Well,
had it.
sometimes it can be too much rain, right?
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of ministers describe manipulating weather. They say it's one of the easiest things to do, especially for events or outdoor events.
That's interesting. I've never actually.
Outdoor. Did I freeze again?
Nope.
Okay. I was going to have a party in my little apartment, and I like a food dinner kind of party. Everybody was bringing potluck, and I needed a table. Just a folding table would be fine. And I had some trash that I was taking to a dumpster that was not in my apartment building. I was going somewhere else, and I saw a dumpster, and when I went to put my trash in it, beside it was one of those 6-foot white fold, tables like at the church. And this thing was in brand new condition. And I kind of it was a Saturday afternoon, but I got out and I kind of looked around like, seriously, this thing is just sitting here. I looked around to see if there was any other cars. Are they coming to get it? Did they just, what is this? And I thought, well, I asked for it. It must be my gift. So I brought it home, and I still have it. I've used it just so many times over the years, but that was so particular. My brother used to works for American Airlines. I forget who he was with before American bought him out, but he could give me flight passes all the time. So, but they would fill up. I mean, as going on a flight pass, you got to wait till there's a seat available, and that didn't always happen. So you had to kind of like wait around. But I was heading out to California, and I needed to be on this flight, and I wasn't going to accept that there wasn't a seat for me. And you're watching the screen, and everybody, they've got the list of all the names who are on standby, and I'm not at the top of this list. and then there's a couple names even ahead of me, and then it says, sorry, flight is now, everybody's here, there's no seats available, nobody else is getting on the plane. And I went up to the desk and I said, something has to happen. I have to be on that plane. I have to be at my destination. I cannot take another flight. And I had been doing some treatment while I was sitting in my seat, doing this in my head, watching this process. And when I went to the counter and I said that, and I just like one of those real quick little lightning prayers. And then I repeated in my head, I said in my thought, what I wanted her to say to me. And she's looking down, all of a sudden she looks up and she goes, okay, I have a seat for you, and here it is. And she went ding, 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 and handed me a ticket that quick. And I'm like, okay, thank you, God.
That's a beautiful.
And the other time that happened, I have to say, was with this, I got a speeding ticket. Going from Moab back up to Salt Lake City. And I pulled over for speeding. And I mean, actually, that's how I've done that 3 times. Actually, there's 3 times I've done that. I do a quick prayer, and then I repeat in my head exactly what I want the cop to say to me, and he says it. and it works. You know, here's a warning, be careful, have a nice day. Thank you. So-
3 times.
Well, once was the airline, but then twice was with speeding tickets. I was like, oh my God, treatment works.
It does. I love it.
Yep.
I had an interesting one that this one is very interesting. I had drawn a picture, and I think I shared this in prac class. As a young child, oh, I don't know. I was old enough to draw, you know, stick figures and a little, you know, house with a window and a door, you know, and a roof on it with a sun. But in any event, then I colored in the house this sky blue color. And my dad kept it. I have no idea why. But in any event, fast forward years later, I actually had always wanted as a young adult, I had gone to New York City and just saw some older, you know, hotels, right, with the older rooms, antique type sinks and in the bathroom and stuff like that. And over time had gained a passion and a desire for a Victorian type style home. And so then I'm in Colorado Springs looking for a home. And I was working with a realtor because I really didn't know the area. They were showing me, you know, what I would say were typical homes in a kind of a typical neighborhood where everybody was buying in the northeastern part of town. And the homes were appreciating significantly. And it just really wasn't, you know, what I was looking for. And I paused to really describe, using adjectives, really, what is it I'm looking for, where character was really more important along with some other adjectives. And so she then shifted to looking downtown, in the downtown area where they had these older Victorian homes. And we drove up to the house that I, you know, did buy, and I knew immediately. I didn't even have to go in. I mean, I did, right? But I knew immediately that that was the home. And then when I shared pictures of the home with my stepmom, she pulled out of the drawer this picture I'd drawn as a young child. The exact same color.
Wow.
Isn't that something? I know. That was very interesting to me. And so it actually, I you know, made me believe in divine guidance, right? That there is a connection, you know. And I had a car accident too. It was, and here's another example that, and I only gave up examples that happened with me. I don't know why I didn't think about some of the prayer work for others, but in any event, this is the other example I wanted to share. It was about my vehicle, my truck. I was I had a Toyota Tacoma, and I had an accident. I hit some black ice, rolled the truck. It was totaled. I fortunately wasn't hurt, neither was my dog. And so then I had no vehicle, and I had this vision, wanted another truck, right? A little bigger of a cab with 4 doors. I go to the Toyota dealership and they had it right there. That was amazing to me, right there. I'm sitting there with these black eyes, you know. I had sunglasses on from the accident, right? I probably looked like I was been beaten up, spousal abuse or something. The truck was right there. That was amazing to me. Anyway. So demonstrations are just beautiful.
I'm sitting here trying to remember things and I can't remember a whole lot. And as you guys talk about your stories and then I remember mine. I don't know what year this would have been, 94, 95, must have been 95, 96. So I had a Ford Explorer, but I really wanted a Subaru. I just have always liked those cars and they're safe and I wanted a Subaru, but I wanted an automatic. I don't, and I just a little one. I like the legacy wagons. The weekend that I really thought about this was just moving into a full moon, and that's supposed to be a time of demonstration and manifesting. So I sat down, and this was before I even knew Science of Mind existed. I hadn't found the church. But I think it demonstrates that when you put your passion and your feeling into really desiring something, maybe the pattern of words aren't that important in the moment, right? But I had developed this mental equivalent that I wanted this car and there was going to be somewhere. And there is somehow, somewhere, sometime. I didn't even put a time frame on this thing, but it was moving into the full moon, like the day before the full moon. I sat down and I wrote out exactly what I wanted this vehicle to look like. Just a used Subaru, a white legacy wagon, automatic, safe car, an affordable payment, right? And I had been at the gym in the morning and still had on shorts and a tank top and from working out. And I wrote this thing out and I did this whole little thing that you do on the full moon. I don't know, bury it upside down or something, whatever the process was at the time. But that wasn't the point of it. So
Right.
I get in my car and I head down the road, and it was almost as if something just turned my steering wheel over to State Street and then into the Subaru car lot.
Wow.
And I thought, well, okay, I'm here. I'll just drive around. I didn't want to get out of my car. I was in workout clothes. And so I just kind of drive around, and this guy's in the parking lot, and of course waves you down, the salesman. Hi, can I help you? And I said, I know I'm just kind of window shopping, not going to get out. And he said, well, if you think you were going to get out and look at a car, what would it be? And I said, well, I don't know, like a little used, like white legacy wagon. That's really kind of like my little dream thing in the moment. And he goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he said, somebody just traded one in. It's right over there. It just got here like 30 minutes ago.
Oh,
I said, get out of here. He said, you're going to have to get out of your car. So I'm like, oh my God, I didn't come here to buy a car. I don't even, I don't have, he said, just come look at it. So I get out of my car and I go look at it. And it is to a T what I had just written on that paper that before I got in my car.
beautiful.
And so what did I do? I end up buying a car in my gym shorts, but I had to call both my sons, because that's right after my divorce. Like, you guys, you got to come down and help me with this, and they're both like, we don't know how to do that, but we'll come down and stand next to you, so nobody gives you a hard time. But so, and the payment was affordable, but it was like, because of my credit at the time and right after divorce, I think I had like an 11. I had a really high interest rate, but let me buy it, but I paid it off early. I was able to pay it off early, but
Pretty rapidly, right?
But man, what a demonstration, because I was so sure that that's the car I wanted, and it is going to show up. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't care, but I'm just doing this process and it's going to happen. And it did. So I'm glad I'm not the only one to have a story like that.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
You're a good storyteller. You really are a good storyteller. I appreciate all of this sharing, because again, what it does is just further validate and affirm with specific examples. At least I know that that's my nature, is that I do, well, prove it to me. Prove it to me. I don't know if I believe that. Prove it to me. And so I reflect back on myself, where I didn't formally discover Science of Mind until 2002. It's been a while, eh? Wow. I know. Can you believe that? Wow. Wow, 22 years. And that provided the spiritual principles of really what had transpired, right?
Mhm.
And then once you understand the law, the principles, and really understand a different, I don't know why these words are coming to me, kind of relationship with God. And then you have a further, then you can harness, you can harness the ability to manifest. And then I remember just doing it with smaller things, starting it to really do prayer and for myself. And then of course once I went through practitioner training, then extending that prayer to others. But I recall reflecting back, smaller repeated demonstrations to prove to myself. And then that just further validating and establishing the believability in me. So, yeah. And even this conversation is a nice validation and a further establishing of a believability that when, like you said, Reverend Lynn, when we have the mental equivalent and we are strongly behind that, believe that, keep it up front and center. So it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
As long as it's good. For the good. I like that. Where Ernest Holmes says that, again, to demonstrate means to prove, to exemplify, to manifest, to bring forth, and to project into our experience something that is better than we had yesterday. More good, more good. Not just for ourselves, but those around us, our community, our world, our universe. More good. And that is what is meant by demonstration. That's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share or say?
I used treatment to buy my first home by myself, my first little condo.
Oh yeah.
And that was amazing. I don't think I realized at the time that I had brought that on or demonstrated that, but that worked for my home. And I had an interest rate at the time that another realtor wondered how I got that, because nobody gets those kinds of interest rates anymore. I'm like, I don't know. I guess it must be something I'm doing.
Nice.
But I did go through a time period where money wasn't coming in, and I had 1 month that I wasn't sure I was going to make my mortgage payment. And I literally just like, okay, God. So it's like, it's got to show up. And I was doing treatment, and right before the date, where it was going to be late, I actually ended up I had an adjustable mortgage at the time, and I got a letter from Wells Fargo that I had overpaid something. And it was one of those weird things. I've heard this people before. The check that they sent to me was the exact amount that I needed to make up the rest of my mortgage, to make the mortgage payment. And I've heard people tell those stories before, but I got one of those. And when I got it, I was so surprised. I literally dropped to my knees. And I was like, okay, God, you win. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I go through cycles where I'm not sure anything's happening from treatment. And like, so what am I doing? or what am I missing with that? And then I go back to the book work, to be honest with you. You got to keep the information in front of you. And what am I missing? And what's in my unconscious that's blocking it, that I'm not aware of.
Right. What's neutralizing it? Right.
Yeah.
I go through those periods as well.
Mhm. I think everybody does. Maybe Jesus didn't, I don't know, but I'm not there yet. I'm, I can't tell. He's not here to defend himself to say one way or the other, but maybe he didn't go through those periods of, but maybe he went through other ones. Mom, why do you want me to turn the water into wine? I know it's cousin Rudy's, wedding, but still, cousin Rudy should have planned better. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah, for me, I find it's sometimes a combination of, I'm blocking it internally.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes the timing is not right.
And
other things have to line up in order for this to fall into place. I mean, it's like I used treatment to get this house, but it didn't fall into place as easily as I would have liked. It took concerted effort on the part of a lot of people to get it. And yet I had people going, this is your house. I know this is your house. And I was like, well, okay.
Cool.
Right. Fair. Good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping that perhaps this helps to refresh each one of us in this manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing else, then I'll go ahead and close with benediction.
And
Oh,
money.
I do that first.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time this evening, and appreciate also your continued, and I mean this sincerely, continued what's the word? Partnership with Inner Journey. It's just really nice to a flexible organization, and also always knowing that this group is available and here. It's really, really nice. So if you so choose to donate to Inner Journey, you can obviously go to the website and or text your donation to 405-337-9739. And the word for this evening is faith. How about that? That's pretty appropriate for the topic. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I give thanks. I give thanks for this evening. Give thanks for the sharing. Give thanks for God. Give thanks for God. Indeed, knowing that we are always divinely guided, always divinely supported, always that power, that unlimited possibility of life, that power, that spirit is always there for each of us. And knowing that and believing that we have the power in God, as God, with God, for demonstrations, for manifestations in our lives. And I know from this point forward that each of us are aware of our endearing nature, our beautiful partnership with Spirit. And I know that from this point forward and always, things manifest in our lives as we need and as we want. Give thanks for this discussion. Give thanks for this sharing. And I know, again, each of us as lights of God take this forward and live our lives in God. And together we say, and so it is.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you. Oh, I should stop recording, right?
it.